striking a somewhat optimistic tone meantime. President Trump speaking out in a possible meeting with Iran's president, Hassan Rouhani, and doing so with a warning. Let's take a listen.
If the circumstances were correct or the right, I would certainly agree to that. But in the meantime, they have to be good players. But we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Can't let it happen. So I think that there's a really good chance that we would meet.
All right, here now is David Sears, retired Navy SEAL. Good idea, Dave, to at least contemplate sitting down with Rouhani if the, quote, circumstances are right in your view?
Absolutely. I think that's President Trump's style as well, is always keep the door open in negotiation. I mean, what good is it to go ahead and slam a door shut? Then you're just setting up a complete adversarial relationship. So why not keep your options open, at least diplomatically?
Now, he's done so, of course, with, say, North Korea, and some might make comparisons with the meeting of Kim Jong-un and this potential meeting down the road. Different systems, though, right? What would how would you compare the two?
Right, absolutely different. So he's had success with, or some successes with sitting down with Kim Jong-un and sitting down with Xi Jinping. It's different here. Sitting down with President Rouhani, he's not the head of their government or their system. Mm-hmm. The supreme leader is still the head of all Iran. So he always gets this veto power. But sometimes we mirror image our own system and we hear president and we think that that's the top of the pyramid. It's not in Iran. So President Trump, I think, likes to deal with the decision maker, and he's not really getting that in Rouhani, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm sure the White House would consider that before any kind of a meeting, and thinking about what the circumstances were. That's probably part of the calculus. What did you make of this whole weekend and the way it all played out? And Emmanuel Macron, the French president, inviting the Iranian foreign minister in. What do you think? What did you think of that?
I think that there's some inadvertent good that may come out of it, but I think that it was Macron largely trying to play to an internal political audience. His popularity is waning. He wants France, Germany, to some extent, other pieces of Europe are they need the economic tie to Iran. They really want that, but it's a short-term kind of thing. So President Trump is thinking more long-term, and Macron bringing Zarif is kind of a little bit of a slap in the face, him trying to be independent and show that he can stand up to President Trump. I think President Trump handled it well, blew it off and said, okay, fine, whatever, and then moved on. If you could get now France as an intermediary with Rouhani, that may help things speed along, because Iran does need to save face to come to the table. France as an intermediary might help do that.
What does the U.S. need, though, from this administration's point of view? Is the goal to get some sort of a new Iran nuclear deal in the medium term, say, or you don't think that's even something that they're thinking about within the administration yet?
I don't think that they're thinking about a new deal. I think that they're thinking about how do we contain Iran, because ultimately you can't trust Iran. They've broken every deal that they've ever been in, and to be honest and fair, Iran definitely thinks that they can't trust us. So very hard to come to some new deal that's actually going to hold up. I think that we need to keep focused on containing Iran, keeping their problems internal so that they got to look internal and they can't export this revolution. And that's where the focus is, and then see what occurs. The next big thing to come is some succession event with the supreme leader, and that may be our next opportunity.
Or another provocative, kind of event involving militaries of either us or our allies, right? Isn't that always the concern with Iran?
That's always the concern, but I think, that largely is our choice then on how much we want to escalate. Iran can only do so much. This is exactly why we don't want them to have nuclear weapons, because they can only do so much with their conventional weapons.
All right.
So keep them contained.
Good points all around as always. David Sears, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.